let's close this down. And the last functionality is still a very important one to me. It's doing some voiceovers per stage that I forgot to show you in this last tutorial or this last demo. So I'm still able to set some stages by Shift S, Shift S, Shift S, Shift S, and Shift S. And now if I move out of staging, I can use my 4 and 6 keys to cycle through these stages. But what I now want to add is go to the next line, and the line that has been added the latest. For this line, I would like to add a voiceover so I can give some more context or some explanation specifically for this part of the drawing that was just added. So I can say, okay, this is the first part. I can hit 6 key, the next part is shown, and then I want to hit the 5 key in order to get or to record some voiceover for this last part that was added. Again, I can move to the next line and again hit 5 to specifically record a voiceover for the last part that was added, and so on. So that's what we will do next. Let's delete everything. Let's close this down, go back into staging mode, and let's do some voiceovers. Okay, time for the final feature. Promise, this is the final one. After this one, I'll leave you alone for a few days and I'll try to make some shorter tutorials. But anyway, the voiceover feature. So here we go. As I said, I want to use the 5 key on the numeric keypad for recording some voiceover per line segment or per keyframe. So again, let's add in a keyboard in job so we can start using this 5 key. We also, of course, want to have some audio, so I'll pick an audio device in and I'll drop it here, and I'll select my Focusrite audio interface. And in order to avoid clicks in the recording by instantaneously starting the recording, I will actually add in a lag as well, so that this lag can be used to multiply using a math this audio. So you will see what's happening next. Combine chops and multiply. So when I hit the 5 key, the audio will gradually fade in and gradually fade out, avoiding sudden pops when, let's say, if I just deactivate this one, then this audio will instantaneously be recorded, and this can lead to discontinuities or whatever, but this will result in clicks or pops. So by adding in a lag, it is faded in gradually, avoiding these artifacts. So that's already one thing. So again, just like the lines, here we will also be using a trail chop. So if we connect it, you'll see normally that it is recording. So if I hit 5, you see indeed it's recording but overriding itself. So again, the same logic, deactivate but activate grow length, and we can leave it at time slice normally. And just like for the lines, we will select this one, right click and collapse selected into our master voiceover template that we're also going to replicate. So again, we will just name it base 0 so that if we add a replicator, we can start using the same techniques where we say that for the master, we don't want certain things to happen based on the 0, but for replications or copies of this master that will have a digit bigger than 0, certain things should be happening. So therefore we will already place this one in the master operator. So now we need to tell how many copies we want, and for this we go look at our stages, or maybe the sort. So if we start adding some lines or just one line, but we record some stages by Shift S, Shift S, Shift S, Shift S, we should have a few stages being stored. Yes, so we actually don't need the first one. We only need 3 voiceovers, because at the first stage, so if I go to normally this, so this is only the first stage, and now we are at 1.3. So this is one voiceover that we need, a second voiceover, and a third voiceover. So we don't need the first one, as this is just where everything is hidden. So the amount of copies for the voiceover template we need is 1, 2, 3. So the number of samples in the sort job -1. So therefore we can go to the replicator and fill it in right here. So operator, move out the mouse, sort, say num samples -1. This should give us 3, and they are being replicated all the way up here, so we can use the same technique, put them vertically, and let's move them a bit to the left, a bit down. So there you go. And we want to keep them a bit to the left because the lines will be placed in this vertical line, so we can place them, yeah, here is fine. Anyway, a bit more to the left still, maybe. Yes, that's looking good. But the replicator is complaining. Not measured on previous cook. Let's see, we should have 3 of them, but I'm only seeing 2. So it says item 1 is owned by, okay, so by the first replicator. So if we go back here, go look at the replicator, we see this is also item, called item. So we need to pick a different name for the voiceover placeholders. So let's call them VO for voiceover, and now there is no conflict anymore, and 3 of them are generated. So next we can go inside, or maybe also make these clone the master. So if we just go to the master, we say clone yourself and recreate all operators. Then normally if I change something in the master, it should immediately be reflected in the copies. So let's go into the master and make this recording again available via an out job. So now all of them, they have an output which we can merge together again. So we can have an overview of all the voiceovers that were recorded in these stages. So again, this one is called merge 3. So we can say for each new replicant, C connect out, is it called output connectors? Yes, output connectors. The first one, connect it to operator merge 3. So again, if I recreate them, tada, they're being connected to the merge. So we have an overview of what's happening inside of these voice-over copies for each stage. Anyway, back to the master, because just like the lines, we want to prevent the master from recording anything. So therefore we will paste some Python in the activate parameter. So I just went to my finished project and went to copy some of the Python code we need. But what it says is, okay, activate if my parents' digits are equal to the selected stage. So this is controlled by our 4 and 6 keys by cycling through all the stages or the keyframes. So if my digit equals the stage, then I should be the one recording the voiceover. So I hold the voice description for this part of line that was just animated. And what else do I say here? That I only start recording if the lag chop, so if I go back up one layer, if this lag chop becomes something higher than 0, so if it's raising, then you should start recording. So that's looking good. If not, just stay 0. So for this master voiceover template, this will always stay neatly at 0, but for the, let's see, for the copies, if we open up our panel, so now we should be at stage 0, and if we hit 5, let's keep an eye on this 5, the lag and the audio that's passed through to the master, but also to the templates or the copies of these, the master. So we're now at stage 1. So this first voiceover placeholder is actually armed for recording, as the stage is 1, telling this voiceover template or placeholder to be activated if I hit 5. So let's see if this is the case. If I hit 5, yes, there we are. And while I'm talking, you see that it's being recorded. So now I stop, or I lifted up my finger, so it stops recording. Next, I can continue by hitting 6. I visualize the next part of the drawing, and again hit 5 to start recording a voiceover for this part. So normally this should be activated or armed for recording. So again hit 5, and there you go. The second part is being armed for recording. So as long as I hold 5, this one will keep recording the thing I need to say for this part of line. I release, and again it stops recording. And again, once for last part of line. So again, this seems to work just fine. So now that I have these recordings ready, I also want to listen to them if I would cycle through them. So like now, while it's being shown or animated, I also want to hear my voiceover for this animation. So therefore I need to make a selection. So let's use a select, let's drag it on top. And which channel do I want? I want channel, let's copy paste this and make it some Python string. So K5, they're all named K5, 6, 7, which doesn't seem to be right. I want them to be called K or whatever, and then a number representing the stage I'm in. So let's fix this. So for this, I see that this one is causing it to be named K5. So instead of K5, let's pick something that starts with a 0, and the select also allows you to rename it. So I'll just pick K5 and rename it to Gen 0. So therefore everything needs to be recreated, because those are fixed recordings. Anyway, now the recording will be lost, but still normally the channel should still be okay. Maybe I need to reset. Yes, okay. And now the trail chop is picking the correct name. Again, recreate, and everything should have this Gen 0. So now it starts at Gen 0, 1, 2. So that's exactly what we want. However, actually only this one represents the first stage. So let me also just connect the master. So the master will always be the one causing it to be 0, and the next channels should be 1, 2, 3, and so on. So this allows me to use this string of Python, but then naming it chen without the 5, of course, because Python is taking care of this. So now if I'm cycling through those stages, so back to 0, it goes to 0, but that's the master, which doesn't hold any recording, as we said that the master should not be recording anything. But if I cycle to a next stage, 1 for example, you'll see channel 1 being selected. If I cycle to the second stage in the animation, channel 2 gets selected and channel 3 gets selected with the last part of the animation, so that's looking good. And finally, or almost finally, I figured out a small trick. Probably there are $1,000 ways to do it, but anyway, to play back what we just recorded. So for this, I'm using a constant chop, and in this constant, I'll place this little piece of code. So what does this say? Let's use merge 3. So it's going to look at merge 3. And it's going to look at its sample count. So no, let's undo. So again here, let's go to the first stage, do some recording. We have a recording for channel 1. It stops, a recording for the second one, but we can, for example, do a longer recording, and then you'll see that the second recording is way longer. And for the third, we'll do a very short one. So not all of them are the same. So this means that if we want to play back one of those, we will need to modify the speed of cycling through this audio file based on the maximum length that is being recorded in this chop, which now is channel 2. So what we say here is operator merge 3, look at its number of samples, which will be determined by channel 2, which determines the maximum number, which is like 29,000 or even more, 295,000 for a lot. Anyway, a lot of samples, and this one is telling, or actually determining, how slow or how fast the playback speed needs to be, and this is actually the playback speed scaled by the sample rate as well. So now, anyway, now we can connect it to a speed chop, but for now let's reset it, because we only want to activate the speed at a specific moment. And that's each time when we hit the 6 key. So when we go to the next stage or the next part of the animation, we want to reset it. So let's figure out what this is. So keyboard in 4. And when we go to the right or the next stage, we actually want to reset this speed. So let's undo this reset and let's reset it. So reset it to 1 if operator keyboard channel, it will be K6. So keyboard is, if this one is equals to 1, else keep it at 0. So now if we go to the next stage, you'll see that each time this speed will be reset, which is looking good. But we can also see that it keeps running higher and higher. So therefore this speed chop also offers a limit type. So we clamp it between 0 and 1, 0 being all the way left or 1 being all the way right. And now we can also use this 0 to 1 range in combination with a lookup chop, of course. So again, here we say the index, here we give the actual values we need to read out. So therefore, if we connect it to a audio with an A, of course, audio device out. And if I select my, what is it called, speakers, VB audio, I think I'm using, or then it will be audible in the recording. So if I now cycle through these recordings, you'll see that something is happening, but it doesn't look like audio yet. And that's because probably this one is not showing the same visual. So probably here somewhere sample rate should also be set to 44,100. And then these chops start to look different. So again, if we now play, the recording should, if I'm not mistaken, should be audible, although in my recording meters I don't see anything happening, so I'll just check that. And I think I found it in audio device. I need to select cable input. So now recording, yes, so now you yes, okay. For the second one, but we can, for example, do a longer recording. So there you have it. That this is my recording for stages I did. And then the final functionality I promise is that I want, so if I'm in the first stage, you'll probably start hearing me again. But anyway, if I now hit 5, I will just start adding to this recording, as you can see, but I would like to overwrite this recording and not like add to the end of it. So that's something I'm still going to fix, as well as also use the 0 key. So when I'm in this stage and I hit the 0 key, I will completely reset this one so it becomes silent. So therefore I'm adding a 0 as well. So now this becomes available, as you can see. So now we can use this one inside of the master as well. And I already copied some Python code, which I'll paste here, but I'll explain. So what is happening if me.par, just reset my reset pulse parameter, which is this one actually. So reset this one if me.parents.digits equals my stage, and so if I'm in my stage, so let's say I'm in stage 1 and I hit the 5 key, then I want to reset this trail chop so it's completely removed and I start recording a new take instead of appending to the end. So that's what this part does. Then there's still an OR, and that's for the 0 key. So I realized that I still need to replace this audio rec name. So let's go up again, and I should select it from here. And then it should be fixed, I think. So let's go in. Audio rec should be named keyboard in 5 as well for this one. So normally this should work now. Let's recreate them just to be sure. Let's go into the first stage, do a recording. Here is my recording. You see it being recorded. If I'm still in the first stage and I hit 0, it's cleared out. So I can do a new recording. There is my new recording. But also if I hit 5 now in this stage, I'm overriding my recording with a new one. So I can choose just to reset it with 0 so that it becomes silent, or that I really want to overwrite it. So there you go. This should be everything as I demoed in the beginning, except one final thing, which is recording the entire thing you created. So if you, for example, let's clear everything and let's say my previous tutorial was about an audio histogram, and then you want to say, okay, let's start drawing like the SOP you start with. Let's go in staging mode. Then you can, okay, I'll clear it. A first line in parallel with this first line, so in point, out point, back off a little. I can start drawing. So now all 3 lines are opening up at the same time. Then I want to say, okay, I have 2 points, move 1 to the origin, then move 1 to the thing. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. So this is my explanation. I can start recording some stages. So stage 1 I record, this is stage 2 I record. Those are my two points I want to explain. I record this stage. Next, I want to say that I move this point to the origin and down the z-axis. So this is my final stage, and now I can go in perform mode. I can go to the beginning again, and I can start cycling through all those steps in order to do some voiceovers. So now I'll follow along in these voiceovers so I can show what I mean. So for the first stage, okay, I see these lines are being created, so I can do my voiceover. So I can say these lines are being created in a line SOP. So this is my first explanation for the first part. Next, I move to the following stage. So here I do my next voiceover. So here are the default 2 points, which I'll be moving point B to the origin and down the z-axis. So that's that. And for the final one, and here you see me moving the points down to the origin and down the z-axis. So now if I go back, you hear me explaining created in a line SOP while I cycle through it. And anyway, here you see go through everything, to the origin, blah, 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 and down the z-axis. So now I still want to add a record button so that I can just cycle through every stage while my voiceovers are being played out. So I can record this to a movie file with the audio, and this allows me to make quick drawings with some animations and some voiceovers explaining everything that I made. Okay, so let's close this down and move to our render section, as we will be adding a movie file out top over here. We will just connect our final render, and next we just add another button. So let's add it. We take its output via a null. Make sure that the button is toggling so I can activate recording and deactivate recording. So the only thing we need to do here is drag this one to record. Make sure that unique suffix is on so that each recording we trigger via the button, the name or the file name has an incremented digit in the end. And of course we need to populate our audio chop, so let's go find this one, and we will just take the lookup for this. So drag it in, and we're almost done. The only thing we want to do is make the button a bit more pleasant to look at. So let's go to its layout, and let's make it 50 wide and 50 high. And if we view our panel, we can see that it's now overlapping on top of our perform or staging button. So therefore we will give it some offset in the height. So therefore if we increase the Y to 50, our button will move just above our perform button. Next, we want our button to be a bit more meaningful, or by this I mean a name. So let's close this down and dive in the button. So we can reconfigure its text to rec for recording, but no Python, but just plain text. Okay. In the font tab, we go to scale text to fit, and we set it to always so that it takes on the whole space, or all the space that it's getting. And finally, we can go to look page, or the look tab, as we want to change the background color of this button to red when it's recording. Red means recording. So therefore, we will just remove this standard Python, and we say, okay, RGB, so red, 1 for red and 0 for the others. This is the color we want if we're recording. So these 3 are the color we want. If our output is 1, so up, let's move out my mouse, out 1, channel 0, else it can just be gray for all of them. So if I just copy paste this to the rest of them, this means 1 only for the red if the output is 1, else it's just put to gray. So now we can go record something. So let's go 1 level up, open the panel, make sure we're in append. We can draw just 1, 2, 3, pick some white. Let's put our endpoints from here to here, so we can draw in parallel with the 1, another endpoint to an out point, so we can draw parallel to the white, to the 2, another endpoint to the end, so and back off just a little, so we can parallel draw to the 3, and normally we have blue and white drawing in parallel. So now I can do some keyframes. So let's back off, Shift S, Shift S, Shift S, and finally Shift S. So this should give us some voiceover templates. So if we now go into staging, we move back and we reveal our first digit or first animation. We can activate this one, hit 5. This is number 1. And we have our first recording. We move to the second digit. So we can say this is digit 2. So let's record it, hit 5. This is digit 2. Move to the next one. Again, hit 5, and there we go. And finally, this is digit 3. So now if I just move back and have a listen, this is number 1. That was my recording. This is digit 2. That was my second recording. You can also follow in the lookup how it's played out. And finally, again, I hit 6. And finally, this is digit 3. So when I'm okay with my recording, or if I want to make some modifications, for example, number 2, I want to do another take. I go back to number 2. This is digit 2. So this was me listening to the second recording. I can hit 0 and it will be zeroed out. It will be reset. So now I can just do another recording for the second animation being 2. So there we go. This is a second attempt to recording for digit number 2. So if I go back, I have a listen, if I reanimate it, this is a second attempt to recording for digit number 2. And if I would be fine for this or okay for this, I can just go back to the beginning and we can do some recording. So I hit record, then I start cycling through my stages or keyframes. I view how everything gets animated for me while listening to the voiceover. So let's do one recording, hit record, and start the first animation. This is number 1. This is a second attempt to recording for digit number 2. And finally, this is digit 3. And I stop the recording. So now I should be able to view or go find my recording. And here it is as a first recording, or number 10, as you can see, as I did some tries before. So let's play it. This is number 1. This is a second attempt to recording for digit number 2. And finally, this is digit 3. So this is the entire tutorial that I've prepared for you. So let's wrap up. We started with drawing some lines using this trial chop. Next, we did some panning using the technique using a slope and a speed in combination, which acts similar like the relative UV. So next we went to add some functionality for the zooming. Let's see, what else do we have here? We have yes, the append count, which I explained in order to reveal the entire sequence or to do some parallel drawing. Let's see. Yes, inside of the master, I'll show it. We also added some peeking functionality in order to view the entire sketch while doing some parallel drawing, so you have some reference. Yes, so let's go out again. What was next? Yes, the keyframes that we stored. Let's see. We added a color picker, which we implemented ourselves. We made the slider a bit more responsive, so that if we slide all the way to the right, we get some clarifying text in red that we're in append mode. Otherwise, if we back off just a bit from all the way to the right, we get our green in-out point visualization. So that's for the slider. And in the end, we also added a voice-over functionality, and finally the option to record or animated voice-over sketch to some files. So that's all for this tutorial. I'll have a look at what else I have on my hard drive and see what else or the other interesting projects I can maybe make a tutorial of. So hope you liked it, and hopefully see you in a next one.